one needs to understand that until we hold the royal family accountable, because it is the one that has created the false identity for our nation as being a homogeneous society, lacking regard that Swazi is a diverse society with different values and opinions that need to be heard. The Dingulda system has unfortunately advanced to a state of degeneration such that it has now failed to maintain this false cohesion within itself. The crisis has been observed within its own judicial corridors, extended to the executive, and deepened inside the legislative chambers. We have observed suspension of judges that have attempted to take a posture that upholds justice instead of executing the royal orders. Recently, members of the Parliament who have been vocal in raising the issues that are raised by community members in their respective constituencies, we have seen a systematic assault on those members of Parliament. And their only sin has been they are called to primarily call for political change and solutions to the problem faced by the people of Swaziland. The MPs are today facing persecution from the state, with almost those that are at the forefront, namely Honorable Batlete Mabuza, Honorable Mtandeni Dube, Honorable Mduduzi Kauzela Smelane, being hunted by state law enforcement, including those that have been caught being imprisoned, and Mr. Smelane having to flee the country. These MPs and others who have chosen to remain have joined forces with other political organizations, and those who have been incarcerated have decided to join hands with other political prisoners to make sure that we all fight as a united force, to make sure that we remove what is the common problem besieging us as a country. It is in this context that we continue to call for the immediate release of our incarcerated internationalist, Comrade Amos Mbedzi, as we simultaneously call for the release of the incarcerated members of Parliament and all Swazis who have been jailed for standing up. Political and economic refugees have been steadily increasing over the years due to the hostility of the regime towards democracy-loving people. Honorable Mduduzi Smelane being the latest member to be added in this ever-growing population. Maybe one must add who have had to skip the country in an attempt to run away from Mswati's security forces, have also seen an addition to the ever-growing list of political and economic refugees from our country. On the issue of the popular uprising, the people of Eswatini have finally been awakened to the fact that it is only through their actions that they can push themselves closer to their desires. Their desired goal remains the establishment of multi-party democracy and a firm rule of law. The nation has been conducting peaceful marches and demonstrations, including protests, to try and amplify their voice for a multi-party democracy, the highest form of violence ever seen in the history of our country. The violence that has been visited upon our people has never been witnessed. Not even during colonial times have we seen so many Swazis being murdered by the governing regime. It is during this process that the security forces have brutally murdered over 100 Maswati of our people, crippled and paralyzed for life. Through its security forces, the state heartlessly made sure that it does not only jail its critics, but it has ambushed young learners at schools who have seen assault, unbelievable assault on young people, who have seen indiscriminate shooting of students, even in school premises. It has been a very difficult period for us as a nation. The children were protesting and demanding better learning environment, a future that will ensure that there is scholarship for all deserving young people on our shores. Never in our life we ever thought that what we witnessed in our neighboring country, South Africa, in 1976, we will live to witness in our country. The royal dictatorship has now demonstrated to all and sundry and proven beyond any reasonable doubt that it has no value to add to the people of Eswatini. Mswati's response to the ongoing crisis and unrest has been to mock, ridicule, and insult our people, calling us dacha smokers and drunkards. It is these comments that has infuriated and worsened the situation, and it has hardened stance. These comments are not only not befitting of a head of state, but they are reflective of a man who is contemptuous of his own people. What is our proposed way forward as Pudemo? In its very foundation, which was 38 years ago, Pudemo has always presented through its People Manifesto a set of demands, coupled with a roadmap towards a democratic Swaziland. Key amongst the things we said in the nation: corruption, nepotism, and favoritism. End of quote. We proposed as Pudemo a very simple yet succinct way forward towards a constituent assembly through a negotiated settlement as we released this document in 1992. We further made the following proclamations and set the necessary conditions that ought to exist for any meaningful dialogue to take place. We said, and we repeat as Pudemo, we need a cessation of all political hostilities. We need the repeal of all draconian laws, including the 1973, including our internationalist comrade Amos Mbedzi. We call for the unconditional return of all political exiles. We need a creation of an independent media and judiciary to create an environment conducive to free expression and freedoms of association and assembly. We repeat as a movement that there must be an all-inclusive dialogue through a national convention which must be held and presided by an independent and neutral player in a neutral venue. We reject with contempt any suggestion that seeks to suggest that such a dialogue can take place through the King's Sibaya. So Pudemo therefore wish to inform the people of Swaziland and the world that we reaffirm these principles and conditions for any dialogue to take place. There is no dialogue that can take place as long as Batete, Mtandeni, Mbedzi, and all other arrested prisoners of conscience are languishing in jail. There is no meaningful dialogue that can take place as long as the many leaders of Pudemo continue to be exiled, including the Honorable MP Duduzi Smelane. Our response to SADC: we, together with other stakeholders in the civil society, met in the last 48 hours with the envoy of the South African president and the chairperson of the SADC organ, Troika, where we raised 5 key points that we believe needs to guide our country as we move forward. The SADC envoy, as delegated by President Ramaphosa, has come at a time where our nation is still trying to recover from the mockery that had been displayed by the first delegation that was sent by the then SADC chairperson on Troika. All this disgraceful delegation did was to hobnob with the murderous dictatorship and not give an honest and open mindedness to the submissions that were made by the civil society. Though we acknowledge the efforts of SADC, who are very, very disappointed that it would appear that they always seem to give a lot of weight to what Mswati says. It is with this background in mind that we want to make it clear that we are little optimistic even on the recently concluded one, judging by their showing lack of urgency on the issues that are besieging our country. The question of Eswatini is long overdue for SADC to attend to, and it remains shameful that SADC chose to bury its head in the citizens of the region. So long as SADC continues to not take the issue of Swaziland serious, it will continue to suffer deficit on the issues of confidence from the entire people of region. But we want to emphasize, comrades, that the approach by SADC, because it is premised on the wrong, the killings of protesters. The problem in Swaziland is political. Until and unless SADC attend to the political nature of the Swazi problem, they will continue to focus on symptoms as opposed to focusing on the root cause. In conclusion, we would want to say as Pudemo, fully appreciative of the fact that as a vanguard liberation movement, we continue to carry the huge responsibility and hopes of the nation as a whole. We remain determined to see this struggle reach its logical conclusion, which will be the attainment of democracy and a better life for all. We continue to urge our people never to despair. This is not the time to pull back. This is not the time to wait for some ritual period that is conducted by a family called Ingwala. Ingwala is not a national activity. Ingwala remains a family ritual that has nothing to do with the interest of the people. The problems that are engulfing our country are urgent and need our urgent attention. It is in this context that we will continue to mobilize our people. This is not the time to demobilize. We will continue to intensify our struggles, employing all means necessary to make sure that while we continue with our protest, we take into serious consideration the need to protect and defend our people. Thank you.